the timeline is about 10 years. During the first 5 years, the woman earned 9% interest compounded monthly. And the credit union then changed its interest policy. And then in the second 5 years, the engineer earned 6% interest compounded quarterly. So part A, how much money was in the account at the end of the 10 years. So for the part A, first we need to move this $10,000 to, to the year 5, and then again move it to the year 10. So let's do it. Uh, for the first part, we need to use the future based on present and interest rate, and then uh, the number of periods. So why 60? Because it was 5 years and it was compounded monthly. 5 times 12 will be equal to 60. And why like 0.75%? Because it was assumed that 9% is an annual interest rate. So it will be three-fourth percentage uh, per month. Again, for the next 5 years, it will be 1.5%, but this time it will be 20 period. Why? Because it was compounded quarterly. 5.4 will be equal to 20. And then you will simply look up the numbers on the provided table, and then you could easily calculate the numbers. I think the whole point was in this question was for you to find out these interest rates, and then finding the right number for periods. So for the second part, calculate the rate of return that the engineer received. Uh, that's okay. Why? Because we have the future value, which is like 21,000, and we have the present value. We just need to find the right amount of interest rate. Uh, Either like doing it by trial and error, or either by doing it the way that I told you during the tutorial session. Both of them are okay, and then finally you will have to find something between like 7 to 7.7 something as the interest rate. Um, Anybody has any question? I think this one was quite clear, at least from my point of view, but I don't know from your point of view. Did anyone have any problem with this question during the exam? Okay, I assume that you are listening, and I assume you didn't have any problem for the question one, for the part one of question one. Let's do the second part of question one. Again, a long story. I don't care about this story. You also shouldn't care about this story. Just look at the numbers. So something cost $62,500. And the current machine has approximately, yes, 1,200 pounds of something that can be salvaged and sold for 4.75 per dollars per pound. Okay, again, okay. The remaining components of the distillation machine can be sold as a scrap for $3,000. Again, okay. So we need to pay $62,500, but we also get some money from the current machine. And if we do that, we will see that, yeah, 62,500 minus 1,200 times 4.475 minus 3,000 will equal to 53,800. So that's the present, I cannot say value, you can say present cost. And then it will be a 10-year mortgage. Let me put it here. It will be through a 10-year mortgage with quarterly payment at an interest rate of 8%. Okay, it was quarterly. Let me highlight it again here. It was quarterly, 10 years, it will be 40 periods. And again, it was assumed that this interest rate was based on, it was annually. And so per quarter, it can be considered as 2%. And then we simply use the equivalent, like the period equivalent, based on the present value and 2% interest rate and 40 periods. That's it. You will just simply look it up, this number, the table, and then you can find the number. Also determine the effective interest rate on the loan. Uh, the doctor should discuss this effective interest rate during the class. I'm sure he has done it, right? You have been familiar with this concept, right, or not? Uh, no, you did not know about this effective interest rate. I mean, not to, have you ever seen this effective interest rate during the class? I mean, in the Dr. Shu's presentation slides. Uh, okay. Okay, apparently we need to discuss this a little bit further. Okay, okay. Uh, I want to say that it's all based on the assumption that this is not my first time being the TA of this course, at least not here. And but I should say that different professors, different books have different assumptions. So one common assumption is that you need to find the quarterly or the smaller period amount, the interest rate for the smaller period. Uh, if nothing is mentioned, it is assumed that you can simply divide the annual interest rate by the number of periods in that year. So if it's quarterly, you can assume that you can divide 8% by 4. Uh, this needed a little bit more clarification. If it was not clearly mentioned in the slide, I'm going to look it up after this class though. Uh, but it's a general assumption. You could also assume for yourself that, yeah, you can uh, do it like by dividing by 4. But let's say that now we have the interest rate for each quarter. Let me discuss with one of you guys. I think this can be more engaging. Let's say that, let me just look. Someone just, yeah. Kwan Yin Chan. I don't know. I didn't, I think I'm pronounced it incorrectly. This friend of ours, can you turn on your microphone and discuss with me? Okay, I think he's not listening to the class. Again, randomly checking someone. Randomly. Uh, uh, Mr. or Mrs. Ms. I cannot pronounce it. I'm sure I pronounced it incorrectly. Can you please turn on your microphone and talk to me? I want to just have a discussion instead of just a monologue. Okay, Dr. Shu asked me to record this session. I think he's gonna uh, look it up and see the status properly. Can anybody be volunteer and let's start a conversation with me? Like why team to can you turn on your microphone and talk to me? This is not answering. This is just going to be a simple discussion. I want to see your perspective.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Hello. Thank you.
Yes, hello.
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you for turning on your microphone. And I assume that not many students are listening to me today or in other sessions, but thank you for your time. Thank you for turning on your microphone. So the whole concept of this effective interest rate is that we cannot simply add interest and find out the interest rate of a longer period. Let's say a bank gives you 5%, give you 5%. How much will you have after 5 years? Is it going to be 25%?
No, it should be for compound interest, like based on the sum that we got in the at the end of the first year. Then there will be 5% of that amount of sum, and which will be adding up to the fifth year.
Exactly. So how much is it going to be? It's going to be like 1.05
1.05 to the power 5.
to the power of 5. Exactly, right. So that is going to be the effective interest rate for 5 years. In here, we can assume that we can divide the 8% by 4 and find out the quarterly interest rate and then do it in the reverse direction and find out the effective interest rate on the loan for the year. So which is going to be 1.02 to power of 4. Yes, that is the concept of effective interest rate. And I can also agree with you that the question could be a little bit more clear on this topic. And I'm gonna consider this when I grade your paper. So no worries about that. Are we fine? Are we good now? Chun Shekchan, let me see. Okay, what is the end of your question? Is it a question? Yatning Tang? Yeah, those tones, I've always had troubles with those tones. Uh, so I think I have mentioned it many, many times that it is basically uh, your perception of the concept is more important than the question and your solution. So if you have written your assumption in your paper, then and you have solved the question based on your assumption, you will get a grade. So there is no like people can have different interpretations, and I totally understand it. So uh, about the effective one, No, it's not effective because it's not mentioned that is the effective interest rate. But about the 8% one, yes, I will do that. And on the other hand, you can see that like 8% quarterly is a little bit high. You can see that, yeah, it's not a good, really good assumption that we can see that, oh, this is the 8% per quarter. It is low, it's a large amount of money. So, yeah. So if you're fine with this question, let's go to the next one and perhaps talk about that one, right? Please do let me know if you have any question. I will be happy to talk to you. Like I'm here to talk to you, and I will be happy to talk to you. Uh, Even if you have topics about questions about other things, we can perhaps discuss it. It's a hard period of time in Hong Kong, and I'm sure that most of you are tired, especially those who live in Hong Kong. Some of you can be stressed, and perhaps listening to this course might not be the best thing that you want to do at this moment. But yeah, what we can do, what can we do? Is just life. So about the third question, the project. There's this project. This is expected to operate as shown for 10 years. The interest is expected to be about 15%. Okay, right. And so we have a table with numbers. So as we can see, I didn't draw this cash flow here because I thought this is quite easy. There was only one single tricky point in this question, which was this like star here: materials, licenses, insurances, etc. $1 million beginning of period cash flow. So all of the equations that use P based on A or F based on A, or any equation that contains one A in here, they are based on the assumption that those periodically payments or those periodically incomes are at the end of the period, not in the beginning of the period. So in this question, you should have converted the beginning of the period amount to the end of the period amount. So it will be simply as finding the future value based on the present value with 15% and 1 year. Why 1 year? Because we are, it's not based, because it's like one period. We want to find the equivalent amount at the end of the period. So that was the only tricky part. Apart from that, it was quite easy. Why? Because yeah, $60 million was invested. Okay, so that was exactly what I was talking about, because I said that all equations that use like a, that there is something a in it, they are based on the assumption. Let me draw something here. So this is the time zero. So all equations that use, that contain, let me bring it here. All of these equations that contain like P based on A, or like A based on P, A based on F, whatever, if there is an A in here, the assumption is that all of these A periodically equivalent amounts are paid or are received at the end of the period. So here is the cash flow look like. But in this question, it said that at the beginning of period cash flow. It means that we need the real cash flow is something like this. Let me see. Apparently, just wait. So in this question, we have this setting. Let me put this in here. We have this type of cash flow. It it means that this 1 million is paid in the beginning of the cash flow. But as I said, all of these equations are based on the assumption that they are paid or received at the end of the period, not at the beginning of the period. Uh, so you can face this question like in this situation you can solve this question in probably two different ways. One of them is that uh, you can ignore the end part and solve the equation for n minus 1 period and consider the first payment or first cost as a part of your present value or your present cost, or you can simply move one of these like periodically payments to the end of the period, which is 1. And then face the question like any other normal question in this field. Was it clear enough? Yuk Fai Chan? May I calculate IRR and find that IRR is, uh, but how can you find IRR bigger than 15%? Those two friends, Vaylin Helman, can you turn on your microphone and tell me if you do not use 5% in here, how can you find the IRR?
According to professor example, we can set the net present value equal to 0 and find the interest rate, and it is IRR. I think according to the example. Yeah.
Okay, let me think about it. Let me think about it. Mm, and what was the result of your methodology? What was the result of your method? Do you remember that? Would you recommend this project or not? Oh, nice memory. Or perhaps you looked at your exam. Uh, so I say yes, it can be a correct method toward looking at this question and solving this question. Uh, Although this is the solution provided by Dr. Shu, uh, but if you have solved it based on IRR, I will give you your your points. No worries about that. Happy? Because it's right. You did it correctly. Is that okay with you? Yeah, my pleasure. So part 4 of question 1. So two options. One option is leasing something. Another one is buying something, and the lease is again in the beginning of each year. Like I said in the previous question, you need to move it to the end of the period. So the minimum annual rate of return can be like, is 10%, and if you move it to the end of the period, it will be $7,000 something. What about buying? If you buy something, he or she has to pay, or he has to pay $16,000, and it's gonna like be there for 3 years, and the salvage value, or he can sell it for $3,000. Okay, and there will be some annual maintenance cost. Okay, and as you can see that simply if we find the equivalent annual payments or costs, and then setting both of them equal to each other, and then we can solve for m. Yes, this should be like, and the m should be 1,600. The maintenance cost should be about 1,600 something. I think this one was quite easy. This wasn't a hard question, nothing vague about it. Does anyone have any question? Okay, apparently not. Yep. Question number 2. For last year, can I do 9 years? Last question. Okay, let's think about it. Let's see that you do it for 9 years. Uh, I mean, yeah. Oh, yes. Sorry. This one? Yes. So you can also turn on your microphone and you can talk to me. Can you do that?
I will try. Uh, have the mic capture my voice?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you. Yes.
Okay. I'm thinking that for the annual operating cost, because it start in the beginning of the year, so can I just use the n value as 9 to
Years. And
calculate?
have you considered like you want to do something like this, right? Am I right?
Yes.
And then have you considered this orange arrow in your process?
Sorry, I don't really understand what you mean. What is
So there will be 10 payments in total, right? Either you can use it, you can find it like this. You can find the result like this equation that was proposed by Dr. Shu. Or perhaps you can do something like this. You can move the cash flow uh, back 1 year, and now you can use it for 10 years. But what about this orange arrow, this orange payment, the first
yes.
payment?
I separate the first one to be
So you
times.
separated the first one. So
Yeah.
if you separate the first one and you did your calculation right, you should see this result. You should have an equal result here, like 12 million something, and then it is correct.
Okay.
Okay.
I get it. Thank you.
Okay. Did you reach this number?
Actually, I find confused during the middle, so I didn't finish it. I just listed
Oh,
it.
you. Okay. Uh, if I want to calculate in terms of annual value, uh, how can you? How can I do it? Uh, uh, let me think. Let me think. Do you want to do it together? Let's let's do it together. Please help me. What is this? Oh no, you what? Where did you get this 6,500? Can you turn on your microphone and talk to me?
Hello.
Hello.
I am talking about question one, sub question four.
4.
Yes.
Uh, 4. In terms of annual value, you are doing it like, oh, so you want to do it with the present value, right? Not the annual value, because it is
In the
based on
test, I
annual value.
try to do it in annual value.
And this is the annual value, I think, right? This is the lease is paid annually. Am I right or am I wrong? Which one is it?
Oh, no problem then. Sorry.
Okay, this is based on annual value. So let's go to the question 2. Question 2, we have 2 options: purchasing and renting, and the discount rate is 12%. Draw the cash flow diagram. Okay, no problem. Calculate the net present value of the 2 other alternatives respectively, and then assess them. Okay, we'll do so. We will do. Let's do that. So for the first part, as we can see, we need to pay about $30,000. This is the first arrow. Year 1 to year 3, we will have $30,000 revenue per year. Okay, these are these 3 arrows. Year 4 to 6, $10,000. Okay. What about the cost? The cost will be, we will have 1.6K per year fixed. 1K, the variable cost will be 1K up to year 4. So we will have 2.6K. And after that, the annual growth rate will be 8% from year 5 onward. And we will calculate the costs, like the variable cost for year 5 and year 6. At the end, we will have $2,000. This is the salvage value. So this arrow will be 10 plus 2. And the expected life is 6 years. Okay, no problem. Let's find the net present value. The net present value will be minus 30. And we will have to find the present value. This should be, we will have to find the present value of all of these arrows. So the first 3 arrows, we can consider them as the annual, like we can consider them as annual payments or annual revenue for 12% and 3 years. Okay. For the fourth arrow will be 10 minus 2.5 based on its future value. For the fifth one, it will 10 minus 2.68. 5 years, 12% based on the future value. Okay. And for the last one, it will be 12K minus 2.766. We will have to find the present value based on the future value, 12% and 6 year, and it will be 8,500 something. But as I told you during the previous tutorial sessions, and I totally remember that the timelines should be equal to each other. If not, we have to find a timeline that and repeat the cash flows. So if we repeat this cash flow 2 times, or the equivalent of this cash flow 2 times, uh, we will basically have to repeat it one more time because the other one is 4 years. The equivalent, like 12-year would be good enough for our purpose here. So we need to repeat it one more time. And yes, we did it. And then we will have to find out the net present value of the repeated cash flow based on the future value at the year 6 and 12% interest. The final value will be something around 12,800 something. So this is the first part. Do you have any problem or any question about this part? Okay, I assume that you don't have any question here. Let's do the second one. The second one, 10K deposit. Okay, all right. What about the revenue? Year one, $12,000, and decrease $1,000 from year two onwards. Okay, 12, 11, 10, and there will be a 9K here. But let's see, the deposit will be returned. 10 plus 9 will be 19. Okay, and the contract needs to be renewed every 4 years. Okay, year, that's fine. And there is no salvage value, right? And we do it similarly, and we repeat it 2 times, so the timelines be equal to each other, and it will be 12 years. And finally, it will be $15,000, the final result. And oh yes, sorry. So option B is higher than option A, and then renting is gonna be better. Anyone, any question? Is it also okay to draw both cash flows for 12 years? Yes, it is. What do you mean by 12 years? If you draw them exactly identical to each other, yes, it is okay. But if, for example, in this question, you say 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5 for 12 years, no, that is not okay. That is a wrong methodology. But if you exactly repeat this cash flow 3 more times, yes, that is okay. So that should be fine. Yeah, that should be fine. No worries on that. Also, I should say that I'm not gonna deduct so many points if you have done some like minor mistakes in your calculations. The whole idea is more important than the small calculations. Of course, yes. Let's go to the previous page. You mean this one, right? So, any question, my friend? Okay. Now, question 3. So there was a table of some activities. Okay, all right. And then we had some normal estimation, optimistic estimations, and pessimistic estimations. Okay, all right. And we had this equation like optimistic plus 4 normal plus pessimistic divided by 6. And we could find the expected durations. Okay, nothing really uh, uh, difficult here. And the variance, again, we had another formula for it. We could also calculate oh, the variance, fine. And let's do it. Let's draw the network. Like I said, I personally like activity on nodes, but if you have drawn some activity on arrows, it's also fine. Uh, So for the first part, using the normal times, find the critical path and critical time. All right, let me do it like this. So if we draw the arrows, if we draw the activities based on their predecessors, we will find this network. Starting from activity A, 0, oh, sorry, my bad, it should be 6, not 4. So 0, 6. For the activity B, early start is 0, early finish is 4. For C, early start 0, early finish 9. We will do this the same for all other activities, and we will find that the maximum early finish will be 33. So this will be the whole duration. The red arrows are the critical path, CGJ, and based on the maximum duration, we are gonna find a slack and late finish and late start. This is 33, 30, 19, 33, 20. Let's say for activity K, this is gonna be 33 minus 9 is gonna be 24. And we will continue this for all of the network, and we can complete the whole network. What will be a slack? Simply deduct the late finish and early finish. The slack will be 7 here, slack will be 6, slack will be 7 here again. Simple, just like this, repeat it again and again and again until you have finished it. You have completed the network. For the next one, it will be similar, but this time we will need to use the expected time. Again, we have the network, but this time with the expected times. We will do it exactly similar. Then the project duration will be 34.7 days. And the CGJ will be again the critical path, and the duration will be 34.7. What about the final part? To find the probability that the critical path will be completed in 38 days or less. That is fine. The duration was 34.7, and if you use the calculations provided in the slides, in the course slides, the variance will be 3.35. For CGJ, like this is the C and G, perhaps red will be better. Let me do this. CG and J. The probability will be 83%. If you use 35 days, if you round the duration to 35 days, you will also have the probability of 81%, and it is going to be fine. No worries about that. So both of them should be fine. So any questions? Any questions about it? I think we have solved this problem. We have solved an exactly similar problem in our tutorial session. May I ask, what is the purpose of having the census, this time estimator made at the 95% level? I think another student asked this question during the tutorial before the exam. And do you remember, can you turn on your microphone and talk to me?
Hello.
hello, hi. So what is the equation for finding the expected time and variance? Can you tell me for the expected time?
For the variance,
Not
for
for the
the
variance, just for the expected time.
expected time is using the optimized plus 4 normal one and plus 1 passive one and
Pessimistic,
divided by
pessimistic,
6
yes,
pessimistic one and
divided by
divided
six.
by 6.
Yes, that equation, that equation is based on the assumptions, based on the assumption that these estimates were made at the 95% level. So if the question starts with the time estimates were made at the 95% level, it means that you can use those questions. That's it. There is no other purpose for this information in the equation and the question.
But if the question is mentioned by using like 99% level, so how can I change the estimate time one?
Uh, I would personally Google how we can find like the expected time based on the 99% level. Like we can do it and find a new equation. In that case, let me do this now and see if I can find anything like finding expected time based on optimistic, normal, pessimistic, 99%. There was there there is a question, there is an equation on that. But I do not see that equation. But I cannot find this equation. So that equation is called the PERT formula, PERT, and it is based on a 95% estimation. I am not sure uh, how we can do this for, I do not recall the formula at this point, but I think that if you want to find the expected time and the variance of the time, you would have needed another set of equations. But because they were not provided in the course, you could use them and you could see that, yeah, this 95% level, and then, yeah, we can use those equations. Could I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure.